Hi there, and welcome to your next step in your Single Step Leadership series. In this series, we take one step, one leadership principle every single week. All of those little things, just one a week, start adding up over the months and the quarters to be big gains as far as your leadership is concerned. Now, for today's single step, we are going to talk about priorities. Now, priorities are vital. Everyone knows this. Everyone has them. So why is it that we don't get them done on a regular basis? The real issue is with interruptions, not priorities. And as any leader knows, hey, do you have a minute? Usually leads to much more than just 1 minute. And that's fine. You're there to serve your team. But what I want to introduce to you today is the concept that servant leadership needs balance, which I don't think is talked about nearly enough today. A recent study found that in the financial services industry, interruptions can take up to 6 hours out of the workday. Researchers at the University of California at Irvine found that the typical office worker is interrupted or switches tasks on average every 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Now, neither of those studies gives the impression of a really successful and productive environment. And I know that most of you can relate to those findings. But here's the thing. You have, as a leader, way more flexibility over interruptions, even being a servant leader, than you are taking advantage of. Nowhere does it say that you have to be available 24/7 no matter what else you're working on. The open door policy is great as a general rule for approachability, but if that's how you define being approachable, then you might have an issue. Now, I want to illustrate for you really simply that you do have flexibility over the interruptions and people asking for your time. The thing is, you're already unavailable to your team for several hours out of the day for most leaders that are out there. Let me ask you this. Would they interrupt you if you were on the phone? Would they interrupt you at lunch? Would they pull you out of a meeting? Today we're going to start using that flexibility to finish more things, which is going to help you accomplish more of your priorities. The concept is what I call fighting for 5, because when you are just a few minutes away from completing something and that employee inevitably walks into your office, you're going to take some control. You're going to fight for 5 minutes to finish your task. You're going to say, I'm right in the middle of something. Can I come grab you in 5 minutes? Or I'm just finishing something up. Is it okay if I call you in 10 minutes if it's on the phone? In most cases, the response from the employee is going to be, okay. Everybody understands this. Everybody gets interrupted. Nobody likes being interrupted themselves. Now, there are 4 keys to this because I know that this is a difficult concept. And when I work with private coaching clients, this is one of the most difficult behaviors to put into place. But when you do, you have a huge benefit as far as your productivity is concerned. So 4 keys that I want to talk about. First, you give them the option. Is it okay? You'll notice in the last 2 phrases, is it okay if I come see you? I'm in the middle of something. Can I come get you later on? You give them the option. If it's an emergency, you can go ahead, drop what you're doing, and address their concerns. Second thing, and maybe the most important thing, is that you actually follow up when you say you're going to follow up. We all have issues with the cold shoulder, and you may have had an initial reaction to asking for somebody to come back because you felt that from your own boss, and you've come back, and lo and behold, they weren't ready to talk to you still. But that's where people have problems with this, is when they know you're not going to get back to them. So if you do, no problem at all. The third thing is that you are responsible for the actions. Don't tell them to come back to you in 5 minutes. This magnifies the rejection. It's also an opportunity for you to eliminate those repeated stops at the door where you push them off one more time. You go to them. You take the action. The fourth thing is you don't do it all of the time. You don't always reject people. It's only for those things that are important. And if you have turned away Cameron multiple times already today, then maybe you don't turn him away this time. Maybe you make time for him, even if you need just 1 more minute to finish up the email that you're working on. All right. It shouldn't happen more than maybe a quarter of the time that people interrupt you and want to pick your brain about something. That's still maintaining that servant leadership. Hey, now given how often we're interrupted, that quarter is still a huge number of things that you get to finish without the issue of an interruption hurting your productivity. Remember, there are a lot of times that you are already unavailable, and asking for a few minutes isn't rude if you actually follow up with the team. So if you want to get more things finished, want more control over your time in your day, then you are going to have to put up a fight. And that's why I call it fighting for 5. So on to your exercise for today. All right, what we want to work on is doing this once a day at all times this week. All right, so whenever you've watched this video, whether it's bright and early on Monday or whether you're picking it up on Tuesday or Wednesday, the next days, I want you to fight for 5 minutes. That can be finishing up an email. That can be finishing up a report you're in the middle of, a presentation you're in the middle of. Whatever it happens to be, fight for those few minutes to be able to finish that task and not have to come back to it. Next week, you're going to try it twice. Third week, you're going to try it 3 times. That's it. That's all you have to do. Fight for 5 minutes once a day this week. Build some of that momentum. Once you do it a few times, it becomes easier as you shift away from that always available perception with your team. So really key on doing this just once a day. It can dramatically transform the work that you actually get accomplished in any given day. Hope you enjoyed this one and tune in next week for the next single step in your journey. Thanks.